Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. It's our Punchestown special. Just when you thought the jump season was over, with 2 days ago, the last meeting of the official final meeting of the year at Sandown in the UK, Punchestown crops up. We're going to preview 10 Grade 1s for you. We're not going to do the Saturday Grade 1s because we're going to have a Guineas special at the end of the week, which we may or may not include in there. I mean, probably not, I'll be honest, but we'll see. But we won't have decks there anyway, but we're going to do the today, so that's why we've left it out. We don't either, I know, for the last couple of days, but there's some pretty deep races. So 10 Grade 1s for you, best handicap bets as well, best lays, best bets. Lots to look forward to, lots to get stuck into with Matt Toombs, Donn McClean and Micheál Deasy. I'll save the introductions and tell you the important stuff first of all, which is to go to insights.matchbook.com for a recap of all of our bets. There'll be a Punchestown special insights column up there with all of the bets. And I tell you what, there's some interesting differences of opinions coming up on the pod today, which we like. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. You can subscribe for free. And on the podcast as well, you can subscribe there. Give us a 5-star review, preferably, and a follow on your preferred podcast app, be it Apple or Spotify. Finally, a reminder for timestamps, because some people ask for them. They will be available for each race and day. Just check out the description under the however you're watching or listening to us. The timestamps for as we get to each race and each day will be there for you. Our producer, Dan Hussey, is all over that sort of stuff, as well as guiding us through the next 10 races we're going to preview. Let's get stuck straight in, I think. That's more important than hearing how everybody's well-being is. Everyone looks all right. So, first of all, we will get stuck into this absolute monster of a race. He's still shorter than I thought he was going to be. Sir Gerhardt, 1.65, up against backing trip Dysart Dynamo. We thought we might see it at Cheltenham. Well, it was a possibility. We are going to see it here, who's 3.05. Mighty Potter, 13.0. Vina Idanza, 30. And Gatsby Gray, even 36. Right. Matt Toombs, guide us through this one. Sir Gerhardt backing trip against the Speedball Dysart Dynamo. Is he too short?
He's probably getting to the right sort of price now. When markets open post-declaration, Sir Gerhardt was about 2.0, and I thought he was a 1.6, 1.7 shot. It is a bit trappy because if Dysart Dynamo settles, as you said, he's a speedball, and the fall last time hasn't dented his confidence, then he's right in the mix here. He was visually impressive in the Moscow Flyer here. Not sure what the form's worth. I think I'd have been a bit more positive if Danny Mullins had been on. I think he'd be suited by that sort of strongman jockey. Patrick Mullins is a top-class amateur, but this horse looks a hard ride. And Sir Gerhardt's a formidable opponent. He's only had 3 runs, didn't start Stephen's Day, so I'll be optimistic he wouldn't be over the top. I wouldn't be worried about his underperforming at this meeting last year. He'd been trained for most of the season by Gordon Elliott and had been on the go a long time, having started at Down Royal in October. 3 Stripe Life's frank perform in the Mersey. So the only real concern is that he didn't jump that well on his only Grade 1 try at the trip. But providing his jumping doesn't let him down, he's a much more solid proposition than Dysart Dynamo. So the prices as they are at the moment, the way I'm going to play it is wait and see how Dysart Dynamo takes the preliminaries before betting here. May also play in running, depending on how keen Dysart Dynamo settles in the race itself. But the more he looks like the occasion's getting to him, as it did at Cheltenham, probably the more I'll have on Sir Gerhardt. I think he's much the most likely winner, but pretty much the correct price at the moment.
I'll just add to that mine's a price thing with Sir Gerhardt. When I first looked at the race, he was round about the 1.8 mark, and I thought, that's fair enough. I think there is juice in there. He is just getting a bit short now. It's just sort of, I don't know. It's not that tempting now. I don't think. For all I think, he's going to run out probably a pretty ready winner. Don, I'm just going to throw a question to you. Irrespective of what happened in the Supreme after Dysart Dynamo came down, did you think he was beaten when he came down or not?
It's hard to know, Tom. I suppose he is a keen goer. It would have been interesting if he had stood up, how he would have gone. But because going into the race, when it looked like one of them was, when we didn't know which was going to run in the Supreme, there wasn't much between their prices, Dysart Dynamo and Sir Gerhardt. Whichever one ran was going to be a similar type of price. Like Dysart Dynamo went off a joint favourite to beat Constitution Hill, and Sir Gerhardt probably would have been similar, not much shorter. So they were considered kind of equal going into the race. And yeah, like I think Desert Dynamo, he's interesting back at Punchestown, a sharper track obviously than Cheltenham. And but Sir Gerhard, I think this is probably his trip. He did win obviously the Ballymore over 2 miles 5 at the Cheltenham Festival, but he's for me he was always a 2 mile speed champion bumper winner who's got the pace to be a 2 mile hurdler. And I could take Matt's point about him disappointing at this meeting last year, but like you, Matt, I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. He had a pretty long season, which this season has just been a bit more sparsely. He's just been a bit more sparsely raced. And yeah, look, I think the betting is around about right. I think Sir Gerhard is probably a better horse than Desert Dynamo. For all that, I do think the sharper track and the better ground at Punchestown will suit Desert Dynamo more. The one that I did want to note is Gatsby Grey. Like, he's a massive price and he shouldn't be beaten Sir Gerhard or Desert Dynamo, and maybe there's no real angle into the race here with him. Maybe in a without the top two market, it's a 3-horse race between him and Mighty Potter and Vino Ardanza. I think Mighty Potter, I'm not sure that a sharp 2 miles is going to be in his favour. And look, you have to put a line through his run at Cheltenham. It just wasn't his running. So he has to bounce back from that. He was good in winning the Future Champions Novices Hurdle at Leopardstown over Christmas, where I thought he stayed on really well to win that. He's a kind of a tough, gritty performer. He didn't have a lot of luck in the Royal Bond Hurdle when he was out the back and was kind of had to make ground into a quickening pace, and he was still only beat just over a length and probably would have been closer if he had a cleaner run through the final stages of that race. So he's a talented horse, but he does have to bounce back. I think he could maybe step up and trip next season. Whereas Gatsby Grey, I kind of thought off a mark of 135 he'd be interested in a handicap and maybe stepped up and trip. He did really well to win his maiden hurdle at Limerick for Oliver McKiernan back at Christmas on heavy ground when he raced too freely early on. And then last time at Naas, I thought he ran out an impressive winner in the end. He didn't travel like the most likely winner for much of the race, but he found lots and he came 15 lengths clear of Ballykeil. The favourite that day did disappoint, but he was very strong at the end. And I just thought that performance, it wasn't a handicap, it was a rated novices hurdle, but he raced off an effective mark of 125. He's 135 now. I think that's a good handicap rating for him. If he doesn't blow it on Tuesday or tomorrow, and look, you can see why Oliver McKiernan is having a go. There's plenty of prize money up for grabs. It's a Grade 1 race. It's only a 5-horse race, and you can see him running on and maybe finishing third behind the top two. But just maybe he's one to keep an eye on, with an eye in the future. And maybe if there is an angle, if there is betting without the top two in the market, maybe he could be a bet in that 3-horse race.
You'll have betting without the fav, certainly. Dees, how are you playing it?
I think Sir Gerhard will win. I think he probably has enough speed to go with Desert Dynamo, and he'll be able to stay as well. I think he's just high class. So I'll just do Sir Gerhard to win and Desert Dynamo to finish second. Do a forecast. I think that they should be better than the rest of them by a good bit.
Done. Simple as that. I think it was the case that, for everything you guys have said, it makes sense that Sir Gerhard was the more versatile horse probably at Cheltenham, and that's why they went up in trip with him. And there's no way they could have run the free-going Dysart Dynamo over 2.5. But
I think that I'd say Willie must have had an idea how good Constitution Hill was. I think he definitely picked a softer race for Sir Gerhard. I don't think he would have had a hope against him, and I think that he might have avoided him with Sir Gerhard. Got the win. Like, I don't think Dysart Dynamo was good. I tipped him winning, but I think half through the rest is like he had no hope of winning.
You made me want to play a very quick game, which is rate the novice, your top 3 novice hurdlers, Britain and Ireland this year. Matt Toombs, go.
Constitution Hill and Sir Gerhard definitely. Maybe 3 Stripe Life.
So that would be my 3. I'm not just jumping on the bandwagon. I agree with that. Dysart Dynamo not even in the top 3. There you are, Don.
Yeah, I'd go Constitution Hill, Sir Gerhard, probably Dysart Dynamo. Yeah.
Dees.
I was really much against John Bonnet at Cheltenham, but I thought he did very well at entry. I'd probably put him third after Constitution Hill and Sir Gerhard.
There you go.
It is interesting though that Willie is allowing them to take each other on now, isn't it? Because there is the 2.5 mile race. I know he's got State Man for that, but I was surprised to see Sir Gerhard in here. I thought he'd go for the 2.5 mile race and he'd split them up again. given that Dajadon was always going to come here over 2 miles. But it is interesting that they're taking each other on now when there was never really a question that they would take each other on at Cheltenham.
Yeah, and there's a bit of a Faheen about that, isn't there? Whether he's trying to find out whether he's a champion hurdle horse for next season, maybe.
Definitely, I think you're quite right. That's what they did before him, didn't they? Is that the route they went with him, having run him over 3 earlier on in the year?
Yeah, he won over 3. Then he won the Neptune or the Ballymore.
Yeah,
and then won a champion hurdle.
Right, this is my fault. Sorry, we're getting stuck on one race. Completely to blame. I am. Let's move on. Let's move on to the Champion Chase. I think we've got prices for this as well. Yes, 1.77 Energumene, Chacun Pour Soi 2.8, Envoi Allen, go on the boy, 20, 2100 franc, Captain Guinness 32. You lot are all in the same count. I nearly wrote Energumene just to go against you all. So who is strongest on Chacun, do we think? Has anyone got a really strong opinion? Good for the best. Deasy, straight back at you then.
Look, I suppose some of his best performances of career have come at Punchestown at this meeting, and it's a pick-em between the two of them. And Chacun is a bigger price, and he's never since run his race at Cheltenham. This is where he's at his best. So I think if you have a coin flip of the two of them, go for the bigger price.
Okay, and that is Chacun comfortably. Don?
It's mad, isn't it, Chacun Pour Soi's British record, because 2 of them were probably down to circumstance. Like, it would have been very interesting to see how he would have gone in the Champion Chase if he hadn't fallen. And the Sandown run, you just put a line through because he wasn't right. So, look, I think it's more down to happenstance than anything about travelling or about tracks. But, yeah, I think back at Punchestown, where he's put up some of the best performances of his life, he just has that pace, 2 mile pace that suits Punchestown. And Energumene on faster ground, I know he's got form on Punchestown as well, but on faster ground, I just think that, like as Micheál was saying, at the prices, I think they should be a wee bit closer in the betting than they are, because Chacun has I'd say he's probably, I know he's 10 years old now, but he's probably a pacier horse than Energumene. Like Energumene when he won over 2.5 miles of Coran Park on soft ground, it looked like he could be a 2.5 miler. Now I know he's won a Champion Chase. Champion Chase, obviously, we know it fell apart a wee bit this year, but I just think back on better ground at Punchestown, where Chacun is so good, and first of all, that's where he announced his arrival as a top class 2 mile chaser. I think Chacun could get a wee bit closer to him and could beat him than the betting suggests.
The only thing I'd say before I throw to Matt, the thing that was putting me off backing Chacun, and I felt I was more likely to do that at the prices, is the last 3 races he's won over this trip, he's beaten 2 horses running over an inadequate trip in Fakir Dudri and Allaho, and then he beat Dunvegan. That'd be my, has he really beaten the equivalent of an Energumene, a proper out and out 2 mile quality chaser, Matt?
No, but what's Energumene beaten? As Patrick Mullin said the other day, it was effectively a grade 2 at the business end in the Champion Chase that he was winning. So I agree. I think it's a bit more open than the market suggests, as the lads have said, because we don't quite know what the ceiling is for these 2 yet. I agree with Don. I'm not convinced that Chacun Pour Soi doesn't travel or isn't suited by Cheltenham, but we know he loves Punchestown, and he's the classic sort of horse that punters want to knock because he hasn't performed in the Champion Chase. I mean, you always have to be a bit cautious about end of season form, but the bare form of his win in this race last year is right up there with anything Energumene's done. His Leopardstown form, I don't think, is that far behind. So, assuming he doesn't suffer a similar mishap to at Cheltenham, I'm struggling to split the 2. I'd only have Energumene a marginal favourite. So, Chacun Pour Soi is definitely the value, I think. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, I think it's Willie said that Chacun's the better horse, or thought was the better of the 2 horses at home. So fascinating. So very much Chacun Pour Soi, the team's team. I'm just being a bit pathetic and sitting on the fence for the Champion Chase. Anybody want to add anything to that? Good, on we go. Another very, very interesting race coming up next with Bob Ollinger. Over further, 2.42. Capodanno, 4.0. Fury Road, 8.0. Miller's Bank, 9.4. Beacon Edge, 11.5. Ballyshannon Rose, 12. And Lifetime Ambition is 12.5. Okay. and Bob Bollinger mainly agreement here. I make him a bet, as does Deasy.
Yeah, this is the race I had the hardest time with it because there's question marks over Bob Bollinger, but at the same time, then he's still unbeaten, and if you just look at the class of him, like he should be better than all these horses, and they've had a bit of time to fix him up now. Was it the tongue tie on there now for the first time? Like he's a skinny price. I was thinking about laying him, and then I was looking at the rest of them, and I was like, oh, there's a few of them ran in the entry there. I was very close tipping Fury Road with Matt as well. Don't think Capodanno is at that kind of class. Like the only question mark with Bob really is, will he stay? And I think he will. I think 3 miles should be all right for him as long as the ground isn't rattling hard. I would fancy him to just be better than them. Even if his jumping is a bit sketchy, he won at the course already this season. He should have enough of an engine to be able to, if he's there or thereabouts coming up into the home straight, like he should be able to beat them.
I'm not sure. Like I know he was going to be hammered at Cheltenham, but he still finished in a different county.
15 lengths or something, I don't know.
I quite like the step up in trip as well. 40 lengths out of Bustleton. He was going to be hammered by the other horse, I know. All right, so Don, flesh out the Bob Bollinger. I know you don't make him a bet necessarily.
Yeah, look, I suppose like a 2.4 actually, it's reasonable. I think the worry about him and the unknown is coming back from Cheltenham from a poor run. But like we knew at the time, it just, even coming down the hill watching it live, it didn't look like the real Bob Bollinger. And like I know, look, Galopin Des Champs is a monster, but as Henry de Brum had said afterwards, like he didn't think any horse would ever be able to do what Galopin Des Champs did to Bob Bollinger, and the logical conclusion that he probably wasn't right, and that's been revealed. And he came home with, I think it was a torn muscle he came home with. So Henry's had whatever 6 weeks or thereabouts within which to iron that out, and he wouldn't be allowing him run such a talented horse as Bob Bollinger is if he wasn't 100% sure that he had it sorted. So that's like coming into the race on the back of a disappointing run, albeit a Grade 1 win, bizarrely. That's a little bit of a worry, but I think the step up in trip is just the right thing, especially at Punchestown over 3 miles and a half a furlong. I think he's, potentially a Gold Cup horse. He's that good. He's always been held in really high regard. When he met Capodanno in the Grade 3 race at Punchestown in January, Capodanno did have him. It looked like he had him in trouble at the top of the home straight, but once Rachel Blackmore went for him, he dug in and he picked up, and his jumping is getting better as well. I wouldn't worry about his jumping at all. I just think he's a rock solid horse who could be a really, really exciting horse over staying trips next season. And like Micheál, I went around this race a wee bit like Fury Road. If he put his best foot forward, he ran well behind that Hoy Senior last time, and he's got his cheek pieces back on, which he seemed to perform well in them when he wore them for the first time in the Neville Hotels race. Miller's Bank is interesting as well, stepping up in trip. He was impressive at entry in the Manifesto Chase. I thought he won pretty well in the end. I wonder how good a race that was. And Capodanno coming back after the Brown advisory. So there are, and even throw Beacon Edge in there, I think it's a deep enough race. Like all those are potential winners of the race. You wouldn't be at all surprised to see them winning a Grade 1, but I just think Bob Bollinger could be head and shoulders above them. And if he runs his race and is back after his run at Cheltenham, yeah, I think he can win it.
Must like worry about some of those entry races. They looked pretty weak on paper, all except the race that Fury Road ran in, Matt, where he really tanked into the race. But then I guess a couple disappointed.
Yeah, it's not easy to assess that, is it, with Brave Man's Game and Long Presse clearly not running their race. 5 lengths second to Hoy Senior might actually be really good form. It's probably pretty similar to the 3 mile Grade 1 form at Leopardstown at Christmas. So I don't generally back the Elliott horses and the Grade 1s at this meeting. They've often been harder trained earlier in the season. They're over the top here. But he has got by some way the best 3 mile chase form on offer. Now, if Bob Bollinger stays the trip, then he's better than these. But he is a keen going type. I'd be a bit nervous about him settling well enough in the first time tongue tie. He did pull the muscles in his hindquarters when below par in the Turner, so he's got to show he's over that. Capodanno's an interesting horse. As Don said, he looked like he was giving Bob Olinger a race in the Kalini. He ought to be suited by the step-up in trip from that on hurdling form, but he then tipped up in the Moriarty and jumped badly in the Broadway. But it was actually a testament to his raw ability. He got within 12 lengths or so of Long Presse there. So for those who like to play him running on the Matchbook Exchange, then watching whether Capodanno gets into a rhythm in the first mile, looking to back him if he does, might be an angle into this. But Fury Road's a quirky horse. He's not one I'd be trusting at a short price against inferior horses. But at 8.0, then I'd be prepared to take a chance that he puts it all together and goes through with his effort at the business end.
I'm just going to throw this straight back at you, Matt, just so we don't spend too long on it. But 21.0 for next year's Gold Cup, Bob Olinger, 4.5 Galopin Des Champs. Is there a case that Bob Olinger, if we think he is going to win this, he could shorten and could be if he proves himself over 3 miles, could be an interesting proposition for a Gold Cup or not? Yeah,
I'd definitely rather be backing him at 21.0 for next year's Gold Cup than 2.4 for this.
Okay. Those are the prices that he is, if anyone wants to think about that. Let's move on to Wednesday, where we kick off with another novices hurdle. This is the 520. The Nice Guy is 3.5. Manella Kakuna is 4.5. Manella Crooner is 8.0. As if they're the same age running in the same race. Ridiculous. Journey with Me, 9.0. 10.0 for Bron. And then we got bigger prices, and I will give you them as and when we get to them. DC, you first of all. You're with you're Kakuna.
Oh, wait a minute.
Here he is.
Right.
There we go.
Yeah.
You've got 22 minutes on the slate?
Yeah, that's not too bad. I'm blaming the producer for muting me because I never mute myself.
Every time.
I like Manella Kakuna. I think he's a class horse. He broke my heart in the Albert Bartlett, but I suppose he was just out in front for a long time, and he got picked up by the Nice Guy just on the running. It says here no match for winner. I'd love to have seen Danny Mullins on him, to be honest. I think that he's just a good front running horse. He'll stay all day. This is a bit shorter as well. I think the price is going to be about 4.5, 5.0. I just think he's top class. I think he's really, really good. So I'm sticking with him for this. Get the money back.
Okay, Peter's Punts likes the Nice Guy, who is unbeaten. At the start of the year, they didn't even know they were going to go over hurdles. They said he was doing nothing at home. And Matt, they even suggested Willie Mullins that he should get rid of him.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, and he's been a revelation, hasn't he? And it's very hard to know how good he is. 3 of the 4 Albert Bartlett winners to run in this have been beaten. He has been so fragile. Can he back up here? With Hillcrest never going, Ginto breaking down, I'm not sure how strong form that is. But then, given he's a fair bit in hand on ratings, his price is fair enough. There are a few of these who've been on the go a long time. Barberstown lad in particular, he's been going since June. Hollow Games have been going since October. And 8 of the 9 winners of this as a Grade 1 made their seasonal debut in November or December. Your freshness can count for a lot in these attritional staying races at this stage of the season. And the one I like at a bigger price is Journey with Me. He'd been heavily backed when running a good race coming down the last in the Ballymore. That's surely an inadequate trip for him. His form in beating Manella Crooner and Kill Christmas looks pretty good, albeit Manella Crooner didn't jump well there. But 4 of the 9 winners of this as a Grade 1 were stepping up from intermediate trips for the first time. And I think he could improve a lot for the test. He's shaped like a real galloper. So at the prices, at a race where you often get a horse going in at a price, I'm prepared to go with him.
Yeah, I wanted to be against the favourite for the reasons you just said about. I'm not certain about that, about the Albert Bartlett. To be honest, I never am. Although I know it's seen some pretty good winners. I thought Journey with Me stepping up in trip. He could have been second last time. He was beaten, but he could have been second. And we know how strong that form is working out. So Journey with Me at 9.0. Don, you're with the other Manella.
The other one, yeah. I agree with a lot of what Matt said about Journey with Me. Actually, I think he's a lovely horse, and he kind of followed the Bob Ollinger route, the same connections. Rob Corr and Henry de Bromhead won the same bumper, and actually, when he won that Leopardstown race, maiden hurdle over Christmas, I think they made him favourite for the Ballymore in the back of that. So yeah, look, he is interested stepping up to 3 miles. I remember just on the Albert Bartlett. Remember when Manila Indo beat Allaho in the Albert Bartlett? They came along here together and they made Allaho favourite again. They just didn't believe that Manila Indo could beat him as well as he did, and Manila Indo beat him again. And I do think the Nice Guy will finish in front of Manila Kakuna again. Like Micheál, I was on Manila Kakuna at Cheltenham, but the Nice Guy, just the strength with which he finished off his race, he's an improving horse who went there as an unknown quantity, really. So I think he's the right favourite for the race. But yeah, Manila Kakuna, he missed Cheltenham and he was actually favourite for the Albert Bartlett. I just think like he's got 3.5 lengths to find with Journey with Me, and they're running at Leopardstown over Christmas. But I think the step up and trip is a big thing for him. Like he went to Punchestown next time, and he didn't travel like the most likely winner from a fairway out. But once Jack Kennedy got into him and asked him to pick up, he really stayed on strongly and he won well. Then in the Nathaniel Lacey race at the Dublin Racing Festival, they didn't go a great pace. He was in behind. He made a crucial mistake at the second last flight just as the pace was increasing, and he was playing catch up after that. I thought he did well to stay on as well as he did to get to within 3 lengths of Manila Kakuna, who got a superb front running ride from Danny Mullins. How often did they say that all season? And the fact that he's missed Cheltenham is probably a positive in the context of this race. He's got course form as well, and yeah, I'm surprised he's an 8.0 shot. I thought he would be a lot shorter than that.
Okay, all out against the favourites. Oh, the favourite, sorry, there's only one in that. We move on to an absolute cracker. I cannot wait for this. I can't wait to see Allaho trying again to get 3 miles and failing. He is 3.0. Glander Zobo is 5.5. Manila Indo Tongue Tied is 5.5. Galvin 8.0. Fakir Dudari, another horse they're trying again to make him get a trip that he can't, is 11.0. Album Photo 15.0. Then we get into the slightly bigger prices, which one of us is going to tip up a slightly bigger price. Okay, I'm looking forward to this case. Matt Toombs, the floor is yours.
Right, so you're looking at his 3 mile form. Don touched on this in the context of the novice hurdle. He was third to Manila Indo in the Albert Bartlett 3 years ago as a 5-year-old. He was beaten 2 lengths by him in the 3 mile Grade 1 novice hurdle here. The pair probably softened each other up a bit the following season in the Broadway when mown down late on by Champ. And at that stage, he looked to have similar levels of stamina to Manila Indo. He's only run once at 3 miles since, when a moderate 4th in last season's Savills Chase, but that was only 3 weeks after John Durkin, so I'm quite forgiving of that. He's a fully mature 8-year-old at the peak of his powers now. And having had just 3 runs this season, outclassed his opponent to the right here, he should be fresh enough. I think he'll stay 3 miles around this speed track. And with my racing fans hat on, I hope he bolts up so the Gold Cup becomes a possibility next season. Yeah, for all the owners have Aplutar and Willie will want to keep him to the calmer waters of the Ryanair. You want to see the best horses in the championship races. And in my view, Allaho is the best horse in training at the moment. I think he's going to stay, and I think he's going to win this easily.
Interesting. Immediately checks official ratings, 176. I don't know what is Aplutar rated? Do we know? I'm going to check that. But I mean, a bold shout, and you've made me see it, which is quite annoying because I was all out against him. Nearly put him off as my lay of the week. Don.
Yeah, look, I just think he's short for a horse who has to prove his stamina, and I still think he does have to prove his stamina. I take all of what Matt says on board. It's Punchestown is quite an easy 3 miles. It's just about 3 miles as well, exactly 3 miles. There's no 1.5 furlongs lurking in there, and the ground is going to be just good, easy National Hunt racing ground, perfect ground. So look, if he's going to get the distance, it's a good place to try him again to see if he can get it. But I just think he could be vulnerable. I just think he's so good over 2.5 miles. It's not nearly like the 400 meters of chasing where you go. It's nearly like a long sprint over 2.5 miles. And he ran over 2 miles last season. Willie Mullins wasn't certain. Obviously, didn't run over 3 miles here last year. There's no 2.5 miles race for him, so you have to go one or the other. So he's going 3 miles this year. I think he's takeable, honourable. And likewise, Fakir Dudari, likewise Janadil, who surprisingly fell last time at Ferry House. I think he's a 2.5 miler as well, trying 3 miles. So look, it's going to be interesting. And they're all taking at varying degrees of the market. But I think Manella Indo is just the rock solid one. He's got course form. His run in the Gold Cup was very, very good. It's what, 6 weeks ago, nearly 6 weeks ago. Should be enough time for him to come back. He's done it before, won at Cheltenham and come back here and won here. He finished second at Cheltenham this year. He still ran a big race in defeat against his monster stable companion. And interesting tongue tie for the first time. That is an interesting move. I'm not sure why that is, because maybe he just didn't finish off his race in the Gold Cup. He lost 15 lengths on Applitar up the hill from the final fence, which was a lot. But I think it was more to do with Applitar's finishing kick than it was to do with anything to do with Manella Indo. The others did close him a little bit, but he still saw his race well. And yeah, I think the proven's there, his value against Allaho.
Okay, Stephen agrees with you. Simple bet is the Indo to place. DCU with Indo win and place?
I was going to go win only, but there's a good chance that he could be. And then a reverse forward. That was the last race. There's a good chance he could be a win place, priced by the time. Like I was looking at the Gold Cup there, he was 15th for the Gold Cup. He was a big price when you think about it. And like Don said there, like he's a really good horse. And I think there must have been problems with him earlier on there because he seemed to have improved with his running. You know, he ran a stinker in the King George, but he was, you know, beaten by a bit of a freak performance by Conflate at the Dublin Racing Festival. Best of the rest in the Gold Cup. There's no doubts about him staying the trip or the course here. Like, so I think he's a solid bet at that price. Yeah.
Okay, so we've all had a go. My shout is Tornado Flyer, purely because I was out to put up Clanders Bow because I was really taken with how he went in blinkers, and you know they did the trick last year, didn't they? But then I watched back Allaho just because I wanted to see how strong he was at the end of the John Durkan, and there was little Tornado Flyer just catching my eye. I thought, oh, you know, look at him staying on. And then I thought, can I see Tornado Flyer beating Allaho over a little bit further? And I thought, yeah, over 3 miles. And he's 17.0. So he is my place. He's my bet, win and place. Peter says, I swear Tom puts up Tornado Flyer every time he runs. No, I mean, I put him up when he won the King George at 29.0. So yeah,
Nice.
Stick that in your punt. We're done. We're going to move on to the next, which is the Champion Bumper. Matt, have we got over Fassar Vega yet? I haven't.
Yeah, that rain didn't help. Interesting here. He got jarred up, didn't he? And didn't run last season. Obviously, Dan was quite a fragile horse, so it'd be interesting to see how he goes on the quicker ground here. There've only been, I think, 4 winning favourites in the last 20 years of this, so it's not the sort of race I'd be wanting to steam into something odds on, even though he was very good in the mud at Cheltenham.
Yeah, he's 1.66. I laid him at Cheltenham and backed American Mike. So there you go. American Mike is 4.33, 11.0 for Redemption Day, 12.0 for Seabank Bistro. Bigger prices the rest. Don, I know you're no bet here. You did want to give a line on Redemption Day, so please just do that on Redemption Day.
Yeah, just because, as Matt said, the ground at Cheltenham, it was just way too soft for him. He was impressive in winning on his only previous run at Leopardstown over Christmas when the ground was soft that day, but not as soft as it was at Cheltenham. So back on better ground, he's a pacey horse. Like it's definitely a no bet race for me. There's so many unknowns, especially with the ground as it was at Cheltenham. So look, Facile Vega is the right favourite. He looked very good at Leopardstown as well in beating what looked like a deep field beforehand. So and given his parentage, yeah, he sets the standard. But I think Redemption Day might be interesting at a slightly bigger price. But again, no bet for me.
Okay, and I think you're similar with Seabank Bistro, as in a special mention to him, Matt.
Yeah, he was very green when winning at Naas in January. Second one since, form looks okay. And he showed up for a long way before fading in the mud. He was beaten 9 lengths in 4th. And he was conceding a lot in terms of experience there. Facile Vega won the Grade 2 at the Dublin Racing Festival. American Mike had won a listed race at Navan. So Seabank Bistro might well improve a lot for that experience. But probably a no-bet race for me. I'll be watching it with the future in mind.
Okay, Don, what is, or somebody probably knows what C. Mullins' first name is. It's terrible to say. I actually don't. Do we know?
C. Mullins, Charlie.
It's Charlie, is it?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Um,
I don't have. Is he down? He's down to. What's he down to write?
he's writing Seabound Bistro.
All right, good.
Yeah, which kind of caught me by surprise. Right, then it's me and DC head to head. Go on. Why is Facile Vega going to win again?
That was a freak of a performance. I remember watching I think you interviewed him, Willie, just before the race when they were deciding if they were going to run the race because there was a puddle of water on the track, and he wasn't really too sure about Facile Vega and the ground, and I think he tipped Madman's Game, didn't he? That was collapsed the price, and like Facile Vega just destroyed him, absolutely destroyed him. And I wouldn't be. Sorry.
Genuinely, I promise, didn't know. I'm certain which his best bumper horse was. They thought it was him, but he couldn't. I mean, it proved it now, but I swear he wasn't sure because I don't think they do a huge amount with them.
No, I don't think he's schooled or not schooled heavily, but like it's 3 3/4 lengths, it says here, but like it seemed to me in my mind that he'd won by 20 lengths. He was just so impressive coming up the hill, and like I'm not going to be piling into him at odds on or anything like, but I think he'll win, and I probably will back Madman's Game this time as well because he's a massive price to him, a little win place bet because Willie seemed to think that he was good at Cheltenham and he ran no race at all, but it's tough. Like it's a bumper. Don't be betting too much on this, lads.
I think American Mike, he's interesting enough at that price. I think I know it's considered that he can't beat Facile Vega because he got beaten by him at Cheltenham on heavy ground. He looked pretty good on decent ground at Navan, and I still have in my mind that Gordon's horse at Cheltenham weren't right, and then he had an unlucky spell after that. But there's just a chance that he is a better horse than we saw that day. I still think because they definitely weren't 100% at Cheltenham. So I'm willing to have a small win on him. Anything else to say on the champion bumper, gentlemen?
Just one point on the Cheltenham form. If you think horses like Kilcruck turned it round with Sir Gerhard last year, Tornado Fly with Relegate, Shane Silver's Silver Concord all in recent years. So it's not one of those races where the Cheltenham form just automatically gets rubber stamped.
Good. I like hearing that. Right, let's move on to the Stayers Hurdle. This is Thursday. Great. Well, I'm already excited about talking about this. A whopping price for Classical Dream, who is 3.0. Sire du Burley is 7.0. Paisley Park is 8.0. The Devil's Coachman 9.0. Bigger prices the rest. Okay. Let's get stuck into we'll leave Classical Dream. Matt, first of all.
Yeah, this is often a trappy contest. If you look at going back to the Cheltenham form translating, of the 20 renewals this century of the 4 open grade 1s here, 12 winners have come for the Cheltenham equivalent in each of the other 3 open grade 1s, only 2 from the Stayers Hurdle in this. 4 have come out of the Champion Hurdle. Quevega used to run the Mayor's Hurdle. 5 of them come out of Handicaps. Quevega was the last winning favourite a decade ago, so it's not the sort of race I generally want to steam into one at a short price. Classical Dream is the most talented of these, but he's disappointed badly the last twice. I wonder if he needs to be very fresh these days. Cider Burley's been to both Cheltenham and Aintree. It's tough to win staying races, having taken in 3-mile races at both those festivals. And he's been kept away from right-handed tracks for the last 4 seasons. So I want to take him on as well. We haven't had a winner of this coming from a chase at the festival yet, but I'm going to take a bit of a flyer on Vanillier. He didn't look to enjoy jumping fences. He's regularly backing off his obstacles. It's possible he'll be rejuvenated by the sight of a hurdle in front of him. And he blitzed the Albert Bartlett field last season, winning by 11 lengths. Gavin Cromwell's just had a couple of winners. The yard's inclined to be a bit streaky, so hopefully they're coming into form at the right time. He's a bit of a bolt up or bomb out proposition, so he'll probably be only in the win market for me, but at a double figure price in what I think is quite an open race, I'm going to take a chance on him.
He is a fair price for Vanillier, who is 15.0. Don?
Yeah, I know it is interesting Vanillier back over hurdles because, yeah, exactly as Matt said, he just after he won the Florida Pearl Chase, he looked like he was going to be a serious staying novice chaser this season, and then at Leopardstown, he just seemed to, just didn't have any fluency over his fences. So interesting back over hurdles. I think Ashdale Bob could run well here again. Like Matt said, it's a race in which it can pay to look beyond the obvious, and Ashdale Bob, he ran a big race in the Coral Cup. He was in front from a long way out, and that was the second day as well, the soft ground day. He looked a likely winner on the run down the hill. He just got kind of worn down by Commander of Fleet on the near side, and he stayed over towards the far side in the home straight as well, probably on the worst of the ground, whereas Commander of Fleet came down the near side. Like, he does have 5.5 lengths to find with Commander of Fleet, but I think back at Punchestown, back on better ground, and I wouldn't mind if they go forward with him again. He's probably more a 2.5 miler, but in the Galmoy hurdle, he did keep on well. I know the favourite Classical Dream wasn't at his best that day, but he stayed on to get the better of him for third place that day. So I think up to 3 miles, especially on goodish ground at Punchestown, I think that's okay. And he's got good form at Punchestown as well. He is a horse who he's had a long enough season. He was chasing earlier in the season. They came back over hurdles with him, and I think that was a good thing to do because, again, he just wasn't having the cut at his fences that you needed him to have if he was going to be a top class novice chaser. And maybe he'll go back over fence again next season. But yeah, I think back over hurdles in a race in which there is a weakness towards the top of the market. I think he's value.
Okay, I'll put my neck on the line with Classical Dream first of all, who is my bet of the week at 3.0. Side Burley, I really don't like after a very hard race at Aintree 19 days ago. And as Matt pointed out, he does seem to be better going the other way around. Paisley Park, stop, can't, no. The Devil's Coachman is just not good enough. I respect Don's opinion on Ashdale Bob, so I won't slate that. Gentleman's Game, I think, is very interesting if he runs because the tongue-tying cheap pieces on last time seem to be a plus. And Classical Dream, I totally appreciate something wasn't right last time when he looked reluctant to line up. That wasn't necessarily him. But, it might be that you want to wait until he jumps off. But then I imagine his price will shorten a bit. But I just think he is so far and away on his day the best of these that you're almost betting not whether he's got the quality, but whether it's going to be a going day. And maybe he is better fresh. That's not necessarily something I'd out and out considered. I suppose it looks a bit like that. But that Leopardstown win against Florian Porter, I know it looked as though he got an easy time of it. And yeah, Florian Porter wasn't allowed to do what he normally does. But I think he's so far and away the best of these that I'm sure Woolley will get him on a going day, and I think he's a very fair price that could shorten if he jumps off with them. Right now, Dees, you can take the lay angle with him.
It's mainly a price thing. He's very short, and he's run really badly at the last race. Now I thought he actually was beaten a lot further in Cheltenham than he was with 5 lengths, but he faded out of it. A champ finished ahead of him. I just maybe he's best fresh. Maybe there's a lot of quirks to him. I just think at the price it's not almost an even money bet that something will beat him. So I'm happy enough to lay him, even though I could see him going off maybe 2.5, but I'd probably still lay him at that price. I think he's just too short for this. And you mentioned the Gentleman's Game. I think Gentleman's Game price isn't great now, but I think he's a good place bet anyway, and I probably have to have a little win bet on him as well, just in case. I thought he would have been taken kind of high enough order in the novice chasing division this year, but Moses kept him over hurdles. He good novice campaign last year. He finished second at Punchestown to Galopin de Champ at a decent enough price. He's a big, massive horse. Saw his debut in Cork. He's just huge. He got back on track there at Thurles there a few weeks ago. He beat Unexpected Depth, who was a decent enough handicapper. He probably has been tuned up nicely for this. I think he's probably about 8.0, 8.5. So I'd probably have a quarter on the win just in case, and a nice chunky place bet, and hopefully he can perform it.
I'm really enjoying the comments that it's pretty split on. Well, actually, there's only one comment that this is Classical Dreams course from Alex Jeffrey. Everyone else is saying that Classical Dreams is the absolute lay of the week.
Well, but trade him now or Dan and all his different social media accounts there now, just giving you abuse. Yeah.
It's very true. Very true. Tackling Sports, good podcast, Mike.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see. Let's move on to the other race on the Thursday, which is the Barberstown Castle Novice Chase. Gentleman de May, if lining up, remember, we don't have decks yet, 3.0. 3.5 for Gabanaco. Blue Lord is 4.0. St. Sam 6.0. 9.0 Hawthorne Calor, 15.0, and Bigger the Rest. We've all written Gentleman de May. Does anyone have a pretty confident idea that this horse is definitely going to show up? Has that been said that it's the aim? So we're not. I guess we're not. So this is if he runs. It feels like he probably will, given that performance at Aintree. Don, you first of all.
Yeah, just exactly what he did at Aintree. Like he's a progressive horse all season. He's always shaped as if he could be a top class horse, and then he went to Aintree and beat Edwardstown pretty impressively. And maybe Edwardstown underperformed a wee bit, but not so much. Like they pulled well clear of third time lucky and third. So I think the form is solid, and the way that he raced and the way that he races, he got out in front at Aintree. That's a style of racing that suits Punchestown well. And I think some of his rivals, including his stable companion St. Sam and Hawthorne Calor, I think they could both step up and trip maybe next season up to 2.5 miles. I think Blue Lord, we know how good Blue Lord is. And I think Gentleman de May is a superior racehorse. He's a superior chaser. He's more exciting. He's got more potential upside as well. And he's a year younger. So there's just so much to like about Gentleman de May. He comes in here relatively fresh as well. I know he ran at Aintree, which is only 3 weeks ago, but he hadn't had an arduous campaign before that. And yeah, Willie Mullins again. So I think he's the most likely winner, and if he runs, he's the correct favourite. Gabinaco is interesting as well. He dropped down in trip for the Arkle over 2 miles. They supplemented him. They paid $8,000, I think it was, to put him in the race. And I didn't think he'd have the pace for 2 miles, but actually I watched the race again yesterday. He travelled really, really well down the hill. He was travelling like the most likely winner down to the third last, and kept on well to finish second behind Edwardstown. So he's a player as well, I think, back over 2 miles again. But I just think Gentleman de May, that his potential upside is greater.
Matt?
Yeah, I agree with everything Don said. I think the crucial point Don's already made is that quite a lot of these already want a fair bit further. There aren't many pure 2 milers in this, and that's what Gentleman de May is. He's always looked like an embryonic Grade 1 horse if he went the right way. He was really unprofessional as a novice hurdler last season, taking a vicious hold in his races, misbehaved at the start in a handicap at this meeting. And he looked to get a couple of educational rides on his first 2 starts over fences. And that's really seems to have worked. He seems much more the finished article now. He took the hullabaloo of the Grand National Day well, and I think he'll just have too much speed for these. I think there's a bit of a presumption in the market, not clearly with us because we were all going with Gentleman de May, but a lot of people seem to be saying Edwardstown must have been over the top at Aintree, and I think that's holding up Gentleman de May's price. I think he's a really good value. If you get anything like 3.0, if he's declared against all of these, I think that'd be a cracking price.
The only thing I'll add to that is Alan King and Tom Cannon both said afterwards, we ran our race. You know, we were beaten by the better horse, which I thought was fair enough. And also David Casey said that Gentleman de May ran away with him the morning of the race. I mean, that he is still a lunatic, but he's just got to. He is learning as he goes. But God, he looked good at Aintree. Do you want to add anything, Dee?
No, just that he'd win and Gabinaco will come second. I don't think there's much depth to the race besides that. I think Gabinaco is a decent horse. He was entered in Fairley House. Is there any reason he didn't run a Fairley House, Dan? Did you hear anything?
I think they just decided to wait for this. Yeah.
There you go.
Better option for him.
Yeah. Okay, let's tell you about the offer before we get stuck into Friday. So it is our now regular offer, the sign-up offer with Team Matchbook. It's a £30 welcome offer. Money back as a free bet if your first bet loses. It's only for new customers, and you've got to use the bonus code INSIGHTS30, INSIGHTS30. Place your first bet. If it loses, Matchbook will refund your stake as a free bet up to £30. The full terms and conditions are on the Matchbook website. 18 plus, be gamble aware. You might choose to have your free £30 on Honeysuckle, or you might not. I don't know. She looks pretty unbeatable. There is the without market, of course. Against her, you've got Epatante, who's 7.0. Santra is 15.0, as is Tiupo. Then we've got bigger prices. Right, we've got a few no bets in here naturally. Don, you've just said go honeysuckle, no bet. That we know what you mean by that. I'm gonna leave you off this one. Matt, you have put up a bet in the without market, which is Saint-Ouen.
Yeah, Willie reported he was working much better in the run up to Cheltenham than he had all season, and the steady gallop in the Champion Hurdle didn't do him any favours. He was far too keen. He was only beaten 7.5 lengths in fourth, despite that. And unlike Epatante and Zanahiyr, he hasn't been to Aintree afterwards. You will need to know the final field to know how much pace there is in the race, but you'd hope that on this speed track they'll go a decent gallop. I think that'll definitely help him. I wouldn't be surprised to see Willie try a first-time hood here, and he might well settle better if he gets the advantage of the headgear. So I think he's got decent prospects of turning around the Champion Hurdle form with Epatante if she runs here rather than the mare's race on Saturday, and Zanahiyr. So I'll be waiting to see the prices. But if you just do the straightforward maths of taking Honeysuckle out of the win-only market, he's probably going to be quite an attractive price in the without Honeysuckle market.
Nicky Anderson seemingly was indicating that Honeysuckle is going to run here. So I think 7.0 for her is probably fair enough win and place. And in the without market, I think the without market is probably the main way to play her. But she looks better this season. Honeysuckle at 1.25 doesn't really interest me. Epatante in that without Honeysuckle market. DC?
Yeah. When the mare is on a roll, you stick with her. I think she'll be fine. Just coming back, or Epatante, I should say, will be fine coming back after entry, and she'll finish second to Honeysuckle again. There
you go. Move on to the novice hurdle, which is a 2.5 mile novice hurdle, 2.2 mile, 3.5 effectively. State Man is 2.0, so Gerhard 5.0, who isn't going to run. We know that. Flame Bearer is 6.5. Dysart's in there's not going to run. Kilcrut is 9.0. What Do We Want is 9.0. I'll leave it there. Don, come straight back to you. Flame Bearer.
Yeah, I just think he's an interesting horse, Tom. He's a progressive horse, and yeah, look, State Man sets a good standard and was an impressive winner of the county hurdle. He could have run in a Grade 1 race at Cheltenham if he had been trained by somebody else, probably. But Flame Bearer, I just think he's progressing a little bit under the radar. Like, he was beaten at Naas in early January. He shouldn't have been beaten. He went for a run up the inside and got hampered and then came back around. And actually, it was a similar story at Ferryhouse last time in the Grade 2 race when he went for it up the inside, and I thought the horse did well to engineer a gap for himself and come outside and keep on then to get up and beat Hador. He's going to have to improve again to beat State Man. He's got a little bit to find on official ratings with him, but I think he can. Like, he was in at Ferryhouse as well in the Grade 2 race there at the Irish Grand National meeting. He was taken out in the morning because I think off feed, they say, was the reason for it, not the ground. So he's got for like the ground when he won at Ferryhouse last time at the early April meeting, that was just yielding. So he should be fine on the ground as well. He is stepping up to 2.5 miles, but he finishes off his race well over 2 miles. So I think the step up to 2.5 should be fine, especially at Punchestown on decent ground. And Pat Doyle, his trainer, he's better known for point-to-pointers, but he's a very, very shrewd guy, very good trainer. So, and you just like the way Flame Bearer is progressing. He's that type of Punchestown horse, excuse me, who skipped Cheltenham, skipped Aintree, comes on here, skipped, as it happens, the Grand National meeting at Ferryhouse as well, and just comes here a fairly fresh horse with a little bit to prove, but still with lots of potential. So I just think he might be a bit of value against State Man.
Dees?
Just because it's hard to know without having the decks. Obviously, I've gone for State Man because I thought he was brilliant in the county. This is his only entry. This is the only place he's going to run this week if he turns up, and he's a good bit clear on ratings. Although I'd say he'll be very short, but we'll probably might have a different opinion on the day. I'll see who turns up, but just looking at it now, State Man was the one that jumped out at me.
Okay, I think Kilcrut, if he runs, I think stepping up a trip is interesting. I'm sort of half willing to forgive him that first go at the trip, went behind Journey with me and one of the Manillas. win and place it, I think there'll be enough depth to his price. And Matt?
Yeah, just wonder whether Kilcrut's had a bit of a physical problem. I know there's a consensus a bit that it was a breathing issue, the tongue tie sorted it out, but when he was being beaten early in the season, he just looked like he wasn't holding himself all that well. So I'm not keen to back him. State Man is the obvious one, but the horses he beat in the county hurdle got lapped in Grade 1's Aintree, and I like him, but he is short. So if he's declared, and this is his only entry, then I'm going to take a bit of a chance on What Do We Want, who's about 9.0. He had a big reputation earlier in the season. After a comfortable win in his maiden, he's just run 2 fair races in Grade 1s. Firstly at Naas, went 5th to Ginto, and then he was 12.5 lengths 3rd to Sir Gerhard and the Ballymore. And I wonder if he just didn't like the testing ground. His Dam Hidden Reserve's done well at stud. He's got a full brother whose best form is on Good to Firm, a couple of half brothers who are good ground horses, and he's got a Grade 1 half brother Hardline who's quite flexible to ground, but his joint breast career rating on RPRs was on good ground. So it might be he'll be a different proposition on a sound surface. And this could cut up into a much weaker Grade 1 than the 2 he's been beaten in. So I'll be waiting for the declarations before playing, but he's one I've got my eye on at the moment.
Okay, we move on to best handicap bets. We don't need a reason why here. Just the name of the horse. So we're gonna. I haven't looked at the handicaps yet. I apologise. Matt, your handicap bet or bets?
Just one. Sassy Yet Classy in the 3 mile handicap hurdle. That's the 6 o'clock on Thursday.
Sassy Yet Classy in the 6 o'clock Thursday. Don, one for you on Tuesday.
Yeah, Glan in the Kilishi Hotel handicap hurdle just thought that she showed a really good turn of foot the last day, and she could be still well handicapped.
Okay, Glan 4:50 Tuesday, and DC, yours is a Wednesday. Oh, he's done it again. Right, he's probably have to sack him, I think.
Sack the producer. Sorry then. My handicap bet is Thanks for the Help in the first race on Wednesday. It's a JP McManus own horse who is going to win a race that he sponsors.
Okay, that is thanks for the help in the 3:40 on Wednesday. Right, lays then. Okay, Don, have you got a lay, or are you? You don't have
No,
to.
it was going to be. If I had to put, it would have been Classical Dream, but I didn't want to keep on jumping on the bandwagon.
Put it in. Right, not all of you. We'll put it in. And Peter as well, who says Tornado Flyer for the Latouche if they enter in there. Listen, Peter. Yeah. Okay. Lay Matt Toombs. We know who it is.
Yeah, it is Classical Dream. I do think the freshness is an angle, but he's been really disappointing the last twice. And given how fragile he's been, I wonder if he's just not in the same form as when he was so good at Christmas when beating Florian Porter. Anything shorter than 3.0, I'll be prepared to take him on in what's usually a race where it's worth opposing the front of the market.
Okay, that's what he is at the moment. He may well shorten. Dees, you agree?
I do. Classical Dream, just too short for a fairly open race after 2 bad runs.
Okay, my lay isn't a lay yet because it depends on Dex, but it's really like Matt was saying. If State Man was odds on basically at Dex, I'd be against him just from an angle of very different race this time round. For I respect him as a horse. Right, Punchestown best bets. I'll go first off the back of the lays. My best bet for Punchestown week is the Good Thing Classical Dream. Matt Toombs.
Allaho in the Gold Cup. I'm confident he's going to stay, and I think he's if not the best horse in training, very close to it. I think he's a fair bit ahead of these now.
Donn McClean.
Yeah, Manella Crooner in the Irish Daily Mirror hurdle. I just think he's a fair way overpriced for all the reasons we discussed earlier.
Okay, and Dees.
My best bet is Gentleman to Me in the 2 mile novice chase on Thursday.
Lovely stuff. That's us done. Really enjoyed all of that. Well done. Thanks for all your contributions, everyone, as well. It's much appreciated. It helps move it all along, and it's good to hear your opinions. Enjoy all the action from the Punchestown Festival. Join us again at the end of the week for a Guineas special. But that's a long way off. It's Jumps week. We're looking forward to that Punchestown, and we will say bye-bye.